And now, podcasting from the sun-scorched desert Southwest, weighing in at a combined total of 340 pounds, Brad Winchester, Tyler McDowell Blanken, R. Gimmick Infringement.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement Podcast. I am Brad Winchester, and with me is my tag team partner, Tyler McDowell Blanken. Tyler, we were just talking. My voice is back. That's a good thing. I think for most people, it's a good thing. I'm having a good weekend. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so happy that your voice is back, Brad. It feels like all is right in the world again, at least here at GI. Busy week, man. Just an absolute blur between work and school, and then yesterday was busy, but with some friends, happy stuff. So yeah, man, feeling very blessed, feeling grateful that I'm here with you today. We made it to Sunday. I know we have a loaded episode, so I am just so excited to be here and glad that you're feeling better.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. I have to ask, and the people want to know, how was the first week?
Oh man, thank you. The first full week of the semester was really productive. So if I can even remember what happened, we had just a lot of student inquiries. So I work on the student recruitment end of things. So there were students who just started who were reaching out for some assistance as they sort of acclimate. And then there are still students, current seniors, predominantly, who are reaching out about next admission for next fall. And then we have our transfer population. Some are interested in the spring semester, spring 23, fall 23. So it was a lot. I want to share one quick anecdote. There was a student who called our recruitment line. So we rotate recruitment line shifts. We have a number on the website for the College of Education, and we have shifts to answer it. So during my shift on Friday, there was a student who called, and they were having connection issues in their residence hall or in their dorm. And I went on this whole spiel about, thanks so much for calling. Hope your first week was great, blah, blah, blah. A really nice student. And I said, have you checked in with your desk assistant, the people who greet you in the dorm when you walk in? And they said, yeah, they actually recommended I call you all, which was not the right move. We are not tech support for Arizona State University whatsoever. Wow. So I was basically suggesting this to her. I went on like a probably 60 to 90 second soliloquy about it because the student's brand new. And they told me kindly, like, oh, no, I went to the desk already, and they told me to call you. So anyway, we got them, I think, taken care of. I didn't hear back from them. I just sent them an email and transferred them. But yeah, there were a lot of inquiries. Hopefully I gave a lot of accurate, supportive answers. And the first week was good. It was just so busy. Campus was popping, but we made it, man. I'm feeling very grateful for the position I'm in. Very happy.
That's awesome to hear. Hopefully that kid turned their laptop off and then back on again.
I should have suggested that. I should have. They called that Friday at like 4:38 as well. So it was like, you got 22 minutes to resolve this before every employee is gone for the weekend.
You know, it's funny you said that. So when we got our solar installed, they were supposed to send us like a welcome, congrats, it's all set up, all the things are approved, you just have to turn it on, and a video of how to turn on your solar system. So nothing, no link, no video. And I'm like, all right, well, what the hell? So I called. It was like 4:59 when the person answered. They close at 5. He's like, oh, it's a good thing you called now. And he's like, I'm going to put in a work order. On Monday, they're going to send you the email with the video. Monday came and went, no video. I just had to Google it. Like, I found a thing online, and it was literally turn on the breaker in my electric panel, pull up the lever next to it on the new box.
There's a lever.
And then there's a knob that says on. That's literally it. I just had to do it in that order.
It's a very logical approach.
And I was like, this is it. I waited like a week and a half to find out that I had to press 3 power buttons. And that's it. That's basically all I had to do.
It'd be like that sometimes.
I'm hoping for that student. That's it. And now they're in their classes and they're happy and they're on their way.
Me too, man. That's a funny anecdote you shared. And then finally, a friend of GI, my colleague, Dominic Ayler. I think you guys follow each other on Twitter now, which I learned, which makes me really happy. He, to end the week, sort of cap off the week at work, he was awarded an Inquirer Award. So we had this all college meeting. It was just on Zoom. There were like 350 people,
Wow.
all teachers college from ASU related or adjacent. And he was one of 300. Well, there are 350 people that were there, and he was one of maybe 10 to 12 people who received an award. And this man just started like back in March, and he won the Inquirer Award. So an employee who asked great questions, just really in the spirit of inquiry and trying to do right by students and the community. He won it, man. So it was so cool to see his reaction because he didn't expect it. And it's just nice to see. I know you feel this way about Marana High School, and I think you all still have staff of the month and
Yeah.
awards at the end of the year and awards within the English department. It's so nice to see good people be recognized for who
Agreed.
they are.
Yeah.
That just makes me really happy. So that was a great way to end the week too.
Yeah, I was really hoping I would get another 10-year pin this year to add to my 2 5-year pins, but that didn't happen.
That didn't happen.
No,
Do I need to reach out to Dr. Dan Streeter, superintendent?
No, I'll probably get 2 15-year pins at some point, so we'll be all right.
We'll be all right.
Tyler, I'm ready for your question 1.
Let's get into it.
Lots of stuff happened this week.
Lots of stuff happened. I think lots of stuff are forthcoming this week as we somehow already prepare for Clash at the Castle and All Out.
Cannot wait.
I'm sure we will be in your inboxes later this week with official previews for those shows. I'm so looking forward to it. But man, I have to start with Johnny Gargano. He's back. This feels like a month ago already in my mind.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But
that was this week, right?
Yes, as we record less than a week ago. We recorded on a Sunday. This happened Monday of last week. Johnny Gargano made his return to Monday Night Raw. He interrupted Austin Theory and set up a potential feud. My question for you: what do you believe Johnny Gargano's ceiling is in this new Triple H-led WWE? I see some in the community, some fans are speculating that he may reform DIY with Tommaso Ciampa and become a formidable tag team. I've also seen some, I think this might be a bit of a reach, but I love Johnny. Maybe he is the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns because we know how highly Triple H thinks of him and his work. He was the guy in NXT.
Yeah.
So what do you think about those two options, or do you have something else in mind? What is his ceiling on Monday Night Raw?
Absolutely 0% chance he dethrones Roman Reigns. 0%.
It's hard to envision. I tried to fantasy book it. It's a little hard.
No,
right?
It's not. It's not happening. But I could see him like Triple H is old school enough where I think he understands the importance of the mid-card titles to build somebody toward that WWE championship. Outside of previous champions who don't need that necessarily, like Drew. I don't know that, like, having Gunther carry the IC belt for a long time. Gunther's a future champ. I don't think there's anything stopping that from happening. But like Gunther against Johnny Gargano, I don't even believe that. Like Gargano against Gunther against Sheamus. It's not that they can't build him that way. I just think that they need to build him towards something. I think the tag team division is the perfect place for him right now. Even though he's going to go on a singles run, I could see him. Whoever takes the strap off of Bobby, him winning the US title from like a heel person that has the title. I could see that happening. Unless they make Gargano go heel, but they better not with Rebel Heart. So I don't know what his ceiling is. Maybe champ someday, but I don't know that he needs to have it. He's not Orange Cassidy. So don't get me wrong when I'm comparing characters, but like Orange Cassidy, I don't know that he necessarily needs the belts to be recognized as one of the best, just because of matches. But if it's going to be a belt, I think tag division is probably where it will be. And hopefully actually sooner than later. Only because I feel like the same 3 or 4 teams are always competing against each other. And that's it. I hate comparing it to AEW, but AEW just has such a stacked tag team division that it's hard to look at the current WWE division and not go, man, they need more people in there. And they've made steps. We have Hit Row there now. But eventually Ciampa's turning on Miz. Do you put Ciampa into, this is the other part. Do you put Ciampa into another tag team right after he breaks with the Miz, or do you let him have a singles run? So I don't know, like people are going to fantasy book that way because that's what they want, but I I just don't see that happening. I think Johnny's going to do single stuff for a while. And if he does tag, it'll be with somebody else. They're pretty clearly setting up the stuff with Theory, but I don't know what the stakes will be. It'll
Maybe
be
for the
interesting
Money
to
in the
find
Bank
out.
briefcase.
That's all I can think of, but they did that.
That gets
I feel
us
like
to
they,
that gets us to Roman potentially. No.
but I feel like they did that so recently
Mhm.
that they can't do that again. Like the putting up the, I'm just thinking of Otis.
With Otis.
Otis feels like the last briefcase holder.
Yeah, he really does.
Who was last?
Oh, Big E, of course.
Right. Big E.
And then Otis,
But that's why
Otis
I brought it
Big E.
up. Big E's Money in the Bank run was so forgettable because of how his title run went that it doesn't feel like he ever cashed it in or won. Like I forgot up until this moment, Big E, his victory, his win, his cash in. I just forgot about it. Like I remember
he beat
was champ,
Lashley.
but
He beat Lashley on Raw.
yeah,
Right.
after Lashley got his ass whooped, but retained.
Right.
And yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know what they do with Gargano. I'm excited he's there. I think at the very least he adds intrigue to the mid card. So I love watching. I think Corbin and Ricochet have great chemistry. Their matches have been really good. For the big guy and a smaller, quick guy, they've been putting on some good matches, but this is the most old Raw that SmackDown's felt like in a while. Like it just felt like a couple of repeated things and not much happened. It was the most rampagey SmackDown that I think I sent you that it's felt in a while. But Raw was one of the best Raws I've seen in a long time. So that Toronto Raw was amazing. But that's Dynamite and Rampage right now. And SmackDown's usually not that way. So if you can get more mid-card talent in to bolster the roster and make fresh matchups, I think Johnny is a perfect fit. His ceiling, who knows? I'm just glad he's there to make things interesting. What say you?
I'm so happy that he was presented as a big deal. So
yes,
we got we got the pop for him, and we got Rebel Heart. In terms of his ceiling, yeah, I could absolutely see him forming with Ciampa. Him getting to the world title, particularly against, say, a Roman Reigns, is feels a little more far-fetched to me. But then we also have the potential of the Way reforming on the main roster.
That makes more sense to me.
I know he may be starting out in a feud with Theory, but I think anyone with a pair of eyes would recognize that the Way was a success in NXT, and I think they still had more to do. So if you bring Indy Hartwell up, Dexter ironically is hanging out on Raw. He's presumably part of the roster.
Well, got arrested on NXT. So
he got exactly. And then if Johnny Gargano's wife, Candice Wrestling, returns to the ring at some point, perhaps this year, that could also be an avenue for him. So I agree with you. Mid card seems definitely in his near future, mid card gold, but I'm not ready to catapult him into the world title conversation yet. I think before that we'll get Cody back challenging for it, and Theory still has the briefcase. So I would be shocked if they don't do something with Theory cashing that in. Not saying I want a Theory world title run, but can you really have the Money in the Bank briefcase be cashed in and that person lose again? I don't. To me, that just really sinks the value of Money in the Bank even further.
Yes, I agree. I agree totally. The prospect, you said something there. The prospect of Cody and Gargano having matches.
Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up.
Maybe that's Cody's first challenger when he presumably comes back next year and wins the big belt.
Yeah. The other thing too is I thought about this for one of my questions, but the fact that Gargano being talked about being on NXT and the main roster commentary no longer ignoring that NXT exists, that other places don't exist. The El Generico reference a week ago, amazing. So I'm so happy that things seem to be making sense again, that everything seems connected and feels bigger and more important. Everything feels more important. Every match feels important, or at least like bigger. Like there's a debut and now we have a thing or a segment, the pop that came out of Rare Farms Loop for the Backstage Street Profits Hit Row segment. It's just, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm excited for it.
Me too.
So my question is about the future as well. So I have some quotes from you. It's straight out of a business report from the WWE, and I have some numbers. So I'll try to repeat them. The net income last year, according to this WWE report, was $63.9 million. It was a 76 cent per diluted share, an increase from 13.6 million or 16 cent per diluted share, primarily reflecting higher operating performance. In other words, shares were worth more. Everybody made more money. But that's the net income, according to the WWE reports record. So it's the 2021 report record and then 2022 outlook. It continues with the outlook that reads, the company outlines its expectations for 2022, which assume ticketed audience at the company's live events for the full year and target record revenue and adjusted range of 360 to 375 million, which would be an all-time record. We know, given our professions, that success isn't indicated exclusively by monetary measures. However, the WWE is a publicly traded company that is beholden to their shareholders. Now that Trips is running things, do you think the projected thing, here we go, this year, 63.9 net earnings or increased income? I guess net income was 63.9 million. Do you think that for 2022, that is a low, high, or on the money prediction? Do you think it will be more, less, or right around there? And the overall revenue of the top end 375 with Trips running thing, 375 million for the year. Do you think that is low, high, or on the money?
Wow, fantastic question. I think both are on the money. It's an important reminder for us to remember how popular WWE is and how many homes they reach. It is an absolute global titan. And I think that
Tight sports. I see what you did there.
Thank you. I think with Triple H back in charge, I really believe that so much of the fan base, their interest, consistent interest in WWE and willingness to spend money is going to be completely rejuvenated. I hope our listeners are not only listening to GI, but watching. Right. I think you took all over swig. Myself. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if you took a swig of that coffee and it didn't hit right.
It's water in here. I just
water.
have water.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I didn't.
Deceptive.
Yeah. So I didn't knock it over. I haven't had coffee yet today. But yeah, it popped back through the lid and just absolutely sloshed me. My pants are wet.
Do you have a Starbucks shirt on right now, my friend?
I don't. I'm making.
Or is it Packers?
Mr. Carl Siegloff. Very proud.
Oh, very good.
So
Shout out to former colleague and great friend Carl Siegloff.
Yeah, Norwegian dude.
Great Norwegian dude, former firefighter. So, Brad, my answer to your question on the money, for this may be a more how I'm thinking about this, but I think it may resonate with you and perhaps some of our listeners and viewers. The interest, I think, is going to be rekindled in WWE for so many of us. And most importantly, related to your question, our willingness to spend money on the company. So not just our Peacock subscription, but our willingness to spend on WWE Shop or to go to live events. You remember, I think even on this podcast, not just off it, we shared our conflicting feelings back in the summer, May, June, July, about going to the house show in Tucson.
Yeah.
Because of, like we've spoken about at length, we want to support companies that seem to share the same values as us, whether it's related to social political values or the environment or X, Y, and Z. So we were struggling with that because we know WWE, particularly Vince McMahon, have not been accused of perhaps being the most ethical or diverse people in the world. So I think with Triple H now in charge, and granted, we don't maybe know his dirt as much as we know with Vince McMahon. And hopefully he just seems to have a stronger moral compass and definitely gives us a better product. I think that people like you and I will be more willing to add to their revenue because we feel good about buying, say, an Io Sky shirt or Dakota Kai or the Hurt Business or whatever it may be. I think there are people like us who are more willing to feel good about putting our money to this company. So I think it's on the money, total pun intended. I think the product is just going to be really, really good. And when Karrion Kross becomes undisputed champion, Brad, people are just going to want to spend their money with this company tenfold. They're going to want to lip sync to Scarlett's song. We know that we have some.
I'm fine with that. I don't want her doing it.
That's fair. I hope that's my one thing.
And she hasn't.
She hasn't. That's my one thing is we're so hopeful about Triple H. I'm a little worried that we're teetering on all of this ends with Karrion Kross becoming the face of the company. I know it's kind of a separate question in and of itself, but that's my only hesitancy right now is I think Kross is a really good talent. I just am worried that his absolute domination of black and gold NXT is going to be what we see on Raw and SmackDown sooner than later. But regardless, on the money, I think a lot of fans are going to be rekindled by the new leadership. How about you?
I think maybe they're playing the long game here. Maybe they've already. I'm gonna bring up Bray Wyatt again. Can't believe I'm doing this.
We have to. It's a requirement of GI.
Yeah. Apparently it is. But Karrion Kross winning the straps, and
that's how it ends, right?
It feels like it has to.
Triple H loves that guy.
Who stops him? A returning Big E, but that might be another year.
Yeah. Cody,
if ever. Cody
has to be, right?
I don't think Cody.
No,
no, Cody wouldn't be the right guy to take out Karrion Kross. If Karrion Kross takes out Roman, Cody's not taking out Karrion Kross, but Cody could take out Roman. So that's I don't know how to explain it. Like Cody's not a monster killer. He's just not. But we know a monster.
He's a throne breaker.
He's a throne breaker.
Yes, he is.
And I will say that Karrion Kross gives me kind of early game Triple H vibes.
Yeah, the way that you can see it, right?
Yeah, you can absolutely see it.
Yeah, and he's a good talent. I don't know. Something's missing for me.
I don't think they built him back up for the roster. So the main roster, they just represented him the way that he was being presented in NXT, but that was after they killed him. So you can't destroy a man with a crappy mask and the stupid gear and the gladiator pants and all this bullshit you put on him, buried him, and then sent him on his way. His debut had no entrance. That was like half his shtick. So to present him without the thing that makes him him was really stupid. And now what are we left with? The guy that lost immediately to Jeff Hardy. So as champion, by the way. So what was the point of this?
Prior to that, I think this is being unfair to Kross, but I think I hold the Keith Lee match against him. Do you remember when it was Kross versus Keith Lee? Yeah. I think it was like NXT 30. And it just seemed like Kross kind of squashed Keith. I was like, wait, that's not what I wanted. That's not how it was supposed to go. Even if I knew Keith probably wasn't winning the match, I just felt like, did we need to make Keith look like a toddler for the benefit of Kross?
I feel like you just quoted Jon Moxley in a post-match promo. Oh, was that not how it was supposed to go?
I'm the guy. This is my time.
It was so good.
You were writing my obituary. Yeah, exactly.
It was really great.
It was really great.
Yeah, I don't know what you do with Karrion. I don't know what you do with Karrion. I feel like he's probably going to be the guy. Who better to take him on than Fiend Bray Wyatt, somebody that hasn't had an interaction with him, somebody that is the bigger monster. The only thing that it could be after that is Demon Finn, but I don't think that's going to happen. I also don't know how Triple H feels about Fiend because he worked with cult leader Bray in NXT before getting called up. So, well, I guess we'll find out what happens. I wouldn't hate seeing cult leader Bray come back either. I just don't know if there's a lot of story left there after what they did with Randy. I feel like you've peaked at that point, and that character's arc is over. But Fiend said I'll be back someday soon. So hopefully that happens. Hopefully we get that, and hopefully Tyler can make a special delivery. 12-pack roses. It's time for a rose from Tyler.
And now, for a rose from GI's most eligible bachelor.
I must confess that right before you set this up, I was quickly trying to Google and find a video for you that is very relevant for this segment. We had hometowns this past week, Brad, and it's going to actually continue into this week, but we saw the bulk of it here for Rachel and Gabby's men. And in this week's Rose Report, gimmickinfringementpod.com, you will notice that I broke this up into winners and losers. It's one of my favorite gimmicks. In terms of winners from this episode, it has to start. The conversation must begin with Tino's dad. Brad, I was so wrong about this. The trailer for last week's episode set it up as to where we would believe Tino's dad is sort of the classic heel dad trope of him not being welcoming to the woman his son is interested in. But we were wrong. Tino's dad presented himself as a heel. I think you'll appreciate this. Simply because he and his wife, Tino's mother, just kept asking Rachel. They could not conceive how two people who met 5 weeks ago are now ready to be engaged. They just kept asking Rachel, I don't understand. What do you know about my son? What do you love most about him? And she said, I love his kindness. He told me he just donates blood just when he feels like giving back. And so it felt like that whole situation, the way that visit played out, was just confirming Tino's dad's reservations that the concept of the show, although we love the show, Brad, you and I, Two Bachies, although we love the show, the concept.
I'll make sure Jess hears this.
The concept of itself is just a little ridiculous. These people met 5 weeks ago, and now they're ready to be engaged, and presumably, it's till death do us part from there. So Tino's dad, major winner. Also on this episode, we saw that Zach has just affirmed his position as a front runner for Rachel. I think it's between Zach and Tino at this point, but Zach's hometown went much better. Major update for you, my dude. Eric on Gabby's side of things. Eric with an H at the end.
Yeah.
From New Jersey.
Eric.
Yes, he has positioned himself in the driver's seat for Gabby's heart here. He had a really great hometown. We learned that his dad has actually been battling an illness. His mom is very caring. And this was a really great episode for Eric. So speaking of people who I thought were heels, Eric, I think may actually be a decent guy, and I think may end up getting the final rose from Gabby. Finally, some losers. We did not see Avon in this episode at all. Apparently, this week's episode is going to start with Avon's hometown visit, and then we'll move on to who goes home, who stays, and then there's the men tell all. It's a whole thing, Brad. But we got no Avon this week, which I feel some type of way about. And then finally, this was the video I was going to try to quickly find for you if you haven't already seen it. Tyler was let go by Rachel. This kicked off the episode, if I'm remembering correctly. Tyler brought Rachel to the Jersey Shore and then to meet his family after.
Okay.
But he didn't get past that. They walked the Jersey Shore. It was a cloudy, overcast day. They had the whole Jersey Shore to themselves. By the end of that, Rachel realized, I think this guy is awesome, but he's not the one for me. A common quote on the show when you're going to dump someone is, I just can't get there with you. Respectfully. So that happened to Tyler. So obviously, for obvious reasons, I'm hurt by that. He seemed like a good dude. You know my love for New Jersey, as my mother is from there. But yeah, it was really heartbreaking because he was just confessing his love for her while Rachel was ready, like at any moment, to say, hey, dude, actually, I don't feel the same way about you. I think you're an amazing guy, but you're not my soulmate. So it was tough to watch. Tyler went home. We're getting Avon this week. I don't think Avon's going to make it to the finals, unfortunately. So really good episode. Hometowns were everything we wanted, Brad, and then some. I'm still predicting Tino and now Eric to win it all. We'll see if my predictions come true.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that somebody named Tyler got the Kathy Harvey treatment, but it's a tough world out there.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to be devastated in my brain by your second question, Tyler. Hit me.
Yeah, Brad, I am so eager to ask you about this. So, a very newsworthy week in AEW. I
Yes, sir.
think I kind of know what your question is going to be, and I'm not going to ask that. I'm sure we'll get to the hot topics.
Probably not.
It
I
in
mean, like,
yours.
you probably don't know what I'm going to ask.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. There you go. So, my question for you is related to All Out, which, as our recording, is going to happen 1 week from today. I know you are stoked. I can't wait. I want to reflect and kind of compare last year's All Out card to what we're seeing from this year's All Out card. Several matches were added this past Wednesday and Friday. And specifically, Brad, I want to focus on the representation and the diversity of the respective cards. So if you think back, this is going to be a long setup, bear with me. If you think back to last year's All Out 2021, I have the wiki page right here. It looks accurate to me. Not a scholarly source, but it'll work for the GI episode. You'll recall, Brad, that this event was universally praised. I think many would argue this is AEW's greatest show to date. If we run down some of the matches that were spotlighted, we had Miro defeating Eddie Kingston for the TNT title that opened the show. Moxley defeated Kojima. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, defeated Chris Statlander. The Lucha Brothers defeated the Young Bucks in that epic steel cage match. I think that was a match of the year contender for many of us. Ruby Soho made her debut, and she eliminated Thunder Rosa in the Women's Casino Battle Royale. Chris Jericho defeated MJF. CM Punk defeated Darby Allin. This was CM Punk's in-ring debut for the company.
That's right.
Paul White defeated QT Marshall. Kind of an odd match to be on the card, but it happened. And then finally, Kenny Omega
For Shivani's kid's honor.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then finally, Kenny Omega defeated Christian Cage. He retained his AEW World Championship. Of course, after that, we get the debuts of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. The game was changed that night.
Wild card.
Exactly. That being said, though,
white one.
If we,
I'm looking at I'm looking at the pictures right now, going, holy shit.
Yes, you beat me to it.
Kojima, and then the debut on AEW of Murder Grandpa also happened on that card after the match. So
good call. That's right.
We did get that, but that was about as diverse as it gets.
Lucha Brothers
and Lucha. Yeah.
So if we fast forward now to this year's All Out 22 matches that have been added, Brad, we have for the tag team championships, Swerve in Our Glory versus The Acclaimed, Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs, Jade versus Athena. To my knowledge, all of the black talent that are on this year's All Out are facing against each other in matches, which I'm not opposed to. I'm excited for all three of those. But how are you feeling about this year's All Out card, particularly with regard to representation? I think you and I are stoked for all of the matches I laid out. But maybe the better question for you is revisiting this conversation about representation 1 year later.
Yeah,
I think you can see some of the strides that the company has made if we just compare the two cards. But what are your thoughts on representation in this company 1 year apart? Are there great strides that have been made? Is there progress that still needs to happen? And we can focus, of course, on black talent, but you can take representation as broad of a scope as you would like. Where are you at with representation in AEW? And is this card a sign that there have been strides that have been made, or is this kind of a one-off?
I think there's been huge progress in AEW. Huge. I mean, look at the card. Last year, I think the only people that, aside from the Latin talent and I think one Asian, well, it's technically two Japanese wrestlers that showed up or wrestled on the card. Private Party, I think, were the only black wrestlers. Maybe I'm wrong here. Outside of like the Casino Battle Royale, we had Jade and we had Nyla, but I can't remember who else was in there. In a Casino Battle Royale, not singles matches, not anything,
not on the poster.
Mistakes. Yeah, well, they're on the poster. They're this big in the frame. If you look at the cards for each match, they had like the posters for the match cards that they do. I guess they're tile cards versus the main poster, which they absolutely were not a part of. That was one white poster. As it was when I was looking at the Full Gear poster that you graciously left me in my classroom thinking the exact same thing about that poster.
We
And now
got
to have,
we got Brandy, but that was
that's it.
maybe about it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
And now
Great poster.
we have Keith and Swerve as tag champions. Ricky had the FTW championship forever, and like having to go to Hook, yeah, it's going to a white kid, but come on, that's his belt. Like that's always been his belt. It was always going to be his belt. I have no problem with that. Is it a problem that it seems like all the black talent are wrestling each other? But I don't know, because the way that I think about it too is, let's say, I don't know, let's just throw it out there. It's um, Ricky versus Miro. Who wins in that scenario? Like, who comes out looking good in that scenario? Who eats the pin in that scenario? Like, I'm picking Miro because Miro's a monster. He's just gonna kick the shit out of Ricky. Like, I don't think Ricky gets him. I think he tries to get him into a Rochambeau and Miro gets out of it, and then it's game over. And now we have another black talent losing on a big card. So I feel like it's safe, but I also feel like there's a story there. Number one, the Acclaimed should be wrestling in this match.
So
They've
happy to see
earned
that.
it. They get
Yes.
that spotlight. I'm so
Yes.
pumped for them. I can't wait to hear the crowd pop for Bowens giving Keith a suplex or something.
Yes. You know
Like,
it's gonna happen.
he's freakishly strong, so
He
I
is.
can't wait for it.
Yeah, they're so awesome.
I'm sure Billy's going to come out there,
Yeah.
which means the Gun Club's probably going to interfere in some way. And I'm hoping what this leads to is when Swerve in their glory retains, FTR's music hits. It's what I'm hoping happens, because they've earned that match for the last year and a half. They've been number one contenders and haven't gotten a title match. So, but I'm so happy that the Acclaim gets the spot, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens here. I can't wait for the entrance for Caster, which I will be asking you a question about. Yeah, there's so many things to look forward to here. I think representation has gotten a lot better. In terms of improving, I think they just need to keep doing what they're doing. I don't know that there's like a lot of improving. If anything, the place that they're weakest in representation is just with women. It's not necessarily racial diversity, it's just women. Thunder Rosa had to announce that she's relinquishing the title to an interim champion while she heals up, and we're gonna get into this later because of bulging discs. My dad had bulging discs, and then he had herniated discs, and it's not a good time. But she did it backstage, and she had like a 1 minute thing where she was obviously emotional. She didn't get the Punk treatment. She didn't get 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it was of coming out to the ring to let everybody know in front of everybody that was happening. Now, maybe that was Thunder's choice. Maybe they didn't have time. I'm not really sure. You could have gone to commercial and then she's in the ring. You didn't have to do a big entrance or anything. Like, I don't know what happened there, but like, to me, that was a tiny little representation of how they feel about the women's division still over there. And it really bothered me. So in that sense, they have a long way to go, but you're getting Middle Eastern talent on there, at least South Asian talent on there with Sanjay, with Satnam Singh.
Yeah. Jay Lethal is in that match. I forgot.
I was going to say Jay
that.
Lethal is on the card too. Sure. And Jade and Athena, and that's great. And I know it was supposed to be Jading. I feel like it was going to be Jade and Chris again.
Or maybe even a triple threat. Maybe
I was going to say maybe a triple threat.
Chris was positioned to maybe even knock off Jade.
And now we have this women's interim title match that I don't know if it's the most diverse match in the world now.
It's going to rule, but yeah.
It's going to be great.
You got Sheeta, and that's
I can't wait. Sheeta being in there is the one that makes the most sense. I'm still hoping Jamie Hayter wins the belt. I mean, come on. Like, how great would that be?
I think it's in play, especially with the report leaking that Tony Storm was potentially positioned to beat Thunder Rosa for the title.
Yeah.
I think a great swerve could be Jamie Hayter ends up winning.
Yeah. And if it's Tony, I'm fine with it. I think it's great. I
Of
want Tony to
course,
have the belt.
we all do.
I just think Jamie would be such a great swerve to
Yeah,
build her as a baby face, like
agreed.
a huge baby face that can go out on her own, maybe join Blackpool Combat Club.
It's
All of
it's
those
it's
things. Get her
Tony
away
or
from Britt. Get her away
yeah,
from Britt.
it's Tony or Jamie though. I don't think Sheeta's walking out. I don't think Britt is having a second reign yet. I think it's one of those two.
Maybe. I don't know. I have this feeling that Sheeta might get it the way they did with
Really,
Moxley to give her a chance to be champion in front of fans because she didn't get that. They
that's fair.
finally had fans back and she dropped the belt.
Yeah,
Like her first match in front of a crowd was her losing to Britt.
yeah. She's got to get
So,
gold again at some
yeah,
point. I just don't know if
yeah,
it's going to happen in Chicago
I agree.
next weekend, but
I
yeah,
guess
soon for sure.
I guess the point here is that we don't really know. We can't predict this one, which is the thing I appreciate about AEW. But in terms of diversity, I think they're on the right track. They still have ways to go with, especially with the women's division. But I really like what they've done overall in bringing in other talent that is, well, specifically blacker talent that I've really appreciated, and then letting them be themselves and not trying to water down who they're supposed to be.
Exactly.
And that's been really great. And I
Yeah,
I feel really badly for Swole, and hopefully at some point she can make her way back in because I think there's a big place for her now. But Tyler, I don't know if people are going to want to be coming back to the company after this week, but we'll get into that later.
absolutely. Yeah, and
What
then
what are your thoughts?
I'll just add quickly that when we initially recognized that currently, aside from Jay Lethal, these matches have black wrestlers against black wrestlers. I don't know if I have an issue with that, particularly because I think the storylines of these
They'll make
three
sense.
announced matches
Mhm.
have been so good, and it's a
Yeah.
perfect mix of talent you've signed and talent you've developed. So Ricky Harks and Powerhouse Hobbs have been with the company for a minute now. They have
Yeah.
this grudge. It's been set up so masterfully. Here for it. Jade versus Athena. Athena was signed. Jade's been built. They've had a conflict since Jade arrived months ago. Beautiful. And then, like you said, Swerve in Our Glory are the champs. We love it. And the Acclaimed are arguably the most overact in the company right now. I would argue that anyone that the heavyweight title division, the trios, the women's division, the Acclaimed, everyone loves the Acclaimed, Brad. It's
Yes,
not
it's
not
true.
just a gimmick. It seems like
No.
wherever they go,
Whenever that siren thing goes off, that
yes, it's been beautiful.
immediately.
Their baby face turn has been so wonderfully executed.
Yes.
So I love that it doesn't seem like they're just throwing these talents on the card just to check the representation or diversity box, but the storylines make sense. We want to see it. The talents in these matches have been built. I'm here for it.
I also think we can't undersell that Bowens is not only a person of color, but is also gay, and is getting that time and allowed to just kind of be himself.
So
I
true.
will never not pop for Scissor Me Daddy Ass. It will get me every time because it's so unbelievably ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I think I was listening to a Fightful podcast. I forget which one, but they broke it down that the Acclaimed have so many, I don't know if gimmicks is the right word, but they have so many parts of their act that are over before they even step in the ring. They have Max Caster rapping.
Well, that's just it.
They have Scissor Me Daddy Ass. They have, before that, they have Bowen saying the name of the city to huge cheers. So you have three separate guaranteed huge pops before either guy steps into the ring. If that's not a success, I don't know what is.
I feel a little bit like that's why Billy Gunn makes so much sense following him instead of his kids, because their act is so much like the New Age Outlaws, where they were over for their entrance more than they were for anything they do in the ring. Because Billy had the famouser, and then he would like always get wide eyed and sell his ass off. But Road Dogg would have the little shuffle punch thing,
Shuffle punch, yeah.
Which I think Colton, I don't remember if it's Colton or Austin, one of them has that as one of their moves now.
I think it might be Austin. I could be wrong.
I think you're right. Okay. But they got the blessing to do that, which I think is awesome. Mm-hmm. And they could use the famouser, which I think is awesome. I love all of that so much. But the way they enter is very much you didn't know. And then going into the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and then passing the mic to Billy to say, and if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. Like, I think that's perfect because that's Bowens saying Chicago, The Acclaimed have arrived. Scissor me, daddy ass. Or in the middle of the match, going like this to the corner, and then just like as a way to mock them is. You're right. There's just so many components, but it reminds me so much of that New Age Outlaws time period. Even the suck it signs in the middle of the match is like the scissor me thing. Like it's very reminiscent of old school, but not too old school wrestling. I don't know if I articulated that correctly. Way to fumble and articulate too. What a brace the mess. Someday I'll get it when I'm in a better state of mind, but it's time right now for the State of 19 Media, Tyler.
And now it's time for the State of the Biz.
Small Town USA is back. Join Jess and Carmen for their latest adventure as they traverse through New Jersey, not on The Bachelorette, specifically to the shore as they share the tale of the Jersey Devil.
And what a summer it's been for the Orlando Magic and its fan base. On the latest episode of Close Up Magic, superfans Steven and Malik welcome special guest Adam Papagiorgio from the Penny and Pops podcast to discuss all things Franz Wagner.
Well, I'm so happy that you had that one. Join good friend of GI and 19 co-founder Mo for the latest edition of Hidden Gems Golf. Tap in and hear his thoughts on golf's latest event, the Tour Championship from Atlanta.
Jabari Davis, formerly of 19 Media and now producer for iHeartMedia, is doing great work behind the scenes for the show Miles and Jack Got Mad Boosties, an NBA podcast. On their most recent episode, they reviewed all-time clutch moments, Brad. Some really fantastic work, as always, from JD. You can check him out at Jabari Davis NBA on Twitter.
Our guy Des Powell dropped a new episode of Hip to the Games. Check it out and hear his album review of Mos Def's classic from 1999, Black on Both Sides.
Shout out to Des. Shout out to Late Night Lake Show. The fellas of LNLS blessed our inboxes, Brad. You can check out their latest episode as they break down the Los Angeles Lakers acquisition of the infamous Patrick Beverley.
Yeah, what a week there.
What a week.
Warren Shaw, 19 Media co-founder, released a new episode of his podcast, Dope Interviews. Check out his latest work, a conversation with actress Sandy McCree of The Wire.
And you know how we close out State of 19. Finally, shout out to Mike Steff, former GI guest, fellow podcaster. You can check out his show, The Salty Thoughts of Donnie Ooh, for detailed, passionate commentary on the latest news in sports, professional wrestling, New York politics, and much, much more. In fact, Brad, you may have heard that his last episode included him boasting about his beloved, his amazing New York Mets. And ironically, he released this episode before the Mets lost to the Yankees in back-to-back games. So needless to say, I listened to that episode more than once, and it was even sweeter on the second listen after the conclusion of the Subway Series. But regardless, he's a great dude, a wonderful supporter. We appreciate him so much. You can find him at Mike Steffens _ on Twitter.
Yeah, I definitely got to see the fallout from that. More than once, you shared videos. I was just like, man, I totally forgot baseball is a thing.
It's a thing, and I told Mike, I said, my man, like, a series does not start until the home team loses. I think that's applicable in so many sports. So he was really feeling himself and was very boastful and a tad disrespectful about what the Mets were going to do at Yankee Stadium. But then I was proven right. So yeah, I had to send a video his way of me bouncing to Frank Sinatra. Absolutely. I don't regret it.
I got to tell you, like, I love it. But for me, sports these days, man, I haven't watched anything. I haven't watched baseball. I haven't watched hockey. Usually I catch some hockey, especially during the playoffs. I just haven't watched any. I probably won't watch any this season. I'll probably miss all of the NFL. I haven't cared that football has started.
Yeah, it's everywhere now.
And I'm a sports guy. I love sports, but wrestling has eaten my entire life All I do is like listen to podcasts about wrestling, watch wrestling, read about wrestling, think
So
about wrestling,
relatable.
trying to make sure that what we do here matters and trying to connect the dots and
Yeah.
look at different storylines to find a lane into a conversation that maybe we haven't had before. And instead, it's like, oh, yeah, the Subway Series happened. I forgot baseball season was happening. Sitting over here as a Tigers fan. The only thing I remember is from that first second week of the season when Cabrera finally broke the record or hit his milestone, I should say, and wearing my Cabrera jersey. And then I just figured the season was over in May. I mean, it was for the Tigers.
Yeah, relatable. There's only 24 hours in the day, and
Yeah.
wrestling in 2022 can be all consuming. So know that you're not alone.
It's not 24 hours in a day. It's wrestling is 28 hours of a day just to get caught up between all of the things and interviews and
no off season, which I think actually serves us and our show very well.
Absolutely, especially given what happened this week. So I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm ready.
I'm going to give the listener some context, including a throwback name. MJF, CM Punk, Eddie Kingston, Thunder Rosa, Hangman Adam Page, Ivelisse. And now we have talent meetings about contract tampering and open door policies. So to be clear, we don't know anything. Tyler, you and I have never laced boots. We have never stepped into the squared circle. We have never taken a bump, at least not one intentionally in a wrestling ring. But we've probably taken plenty of bumps in other places. But we don't know anything what it's like in a locker room. We don't know anything about backroom politics. We don't know about backroom happenings. However, we can talk about the optics of all of this because that's the one thing we do have and do know and do see. What does this look like? After Max Caster's line this week about talent meetings receiving absolutely no reaction from the crowd. Shocking to me.
Shocking. It's
hard to decipher how to feel or to know about what's going on. We treat wrestling as a performance art and professional sports. We do it both. So we pay attention to contracts. If a starter on a team is upset, we want to know about it because it may affect the outcome of a game. So what percentage do you think of AEW's audience, given all of the things that happened this week, given the reaction about talent meetings, actually care about backroom issues?
If I were to put a percentage on it, maybe 10%. I think at least 1 in 10 are interested in learning more. I think there's a contrast that needs to be made between wanting to be interested in learning more about it versus I'm worried about what the future of AEW could look like. Is this the first sign that it's crumbling, which I don't think is the case whatsoever. I would put 10% on it, though. I think the majority, as we saw in Ohio, I think they were in Cleveland, not Cincinnati, but they were in Cleveland. As you saw, Brad, as you so astutely pointed out, the audience did not recognize the Max Caster line about the talent meeting. So for dare I say marks like you and I who want to digest all things wrestling related, even including rumors from reputable sites, it's interesting to us, but I think there's a huge portion of the fan base that just doesn't invest the time in it. They just want to see the product, but they don't really care too much about backstage politics or what's going on behind the scenes, even if there's reported drama amongst talent. So 10% sounds good to me. I don't think that's underestimating it either. I would say 1 in 10 is probably accurate. What's the number you would put on it?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's probably right where it is. We exist in social media. So when I go on Twitter, if the algorithm is only showing me certain things, or if I've blocked so many people. Like I don't need people that specifically shit on WWE or AEW or take joy in low numbers and stuff, because I feel like people are celebrating the loss of jobs at that point, and that's just asshole behavior. So I'm missing some of that stuff, but the algorithm will always put up information about what's going on in the background. And oh man, I heard this reporter, I saw this, or Fightful said. I typically stick to Fightful only because I'm not paying for Wrestling Observer. But if Wrestling Observer or Bix or obviously Meltzer, if they put something out as this is what we've heard, I'm going to go ahead and trust that that's something that they did here. Whether or not it's true or not, who knows? It's wrestling. It's hard to tell sometimes. But Man, I don't know how many people are actually deep diving. I used to have conversations all the time with a student that liked wrestling in class, and they just liked the wrestling. They had no idea about all this other stuff that was going on. So I think that's probably the case for most people. They want to watch what's on their TV. They want to see what's happening, but they probably don't really care about the backstage stuff unless it affects the onstage stuff.
Right. Which in this case for AEW, clearly many of the stories seemingly do, whether it's Thunder Rosa and the situation there, or CM Punk and Hangman Page. We haven't even talked about the CM Punk and Jon Moxley match this week. It seems like the rumored backstage heat is translating to what we're seeing on screen, or vice versa.
And I think that's probably a good transition to get into it, Tyler. It is time for a segment we have not done in a long time. What happened here?
What happened here?
Tyler, this week was wild in AEW. We're going to try to keep this to 8 minutes. We saw Jon Moxley squash CM Punk, who sold this plant foot. People were confused by the selling of the plant foot on a kick. You almost always break your plant foot if you're kicking and putting all the weight on it. We saw that happen in the UFC kind of regularly, where people's shins have just sort of fallen apart when kicking somebody else. That's a normal sell, especially if that's his actually injured foot. And who knows, maybe it was like legit. I'm not saying he got injured in that moment, but maybe he hadn't fully healed, so he wanted to sell it so that during the match he could get out of it quickly and go back to healing. We have no idea what's real, what's not. The point is, we have heard a bunch of discontent, rumors from CM Punk saying he almost didn't show up to Dynamite. He wouldn't have quit, but he almost didn't show up to work. To his shoot promo on Hangman Adam Page, kind of randomly. Not approved. Nobody knew it was coming. Made Hangman look kind of stupid for not showing up and confronting him, but he didn't know what was happening. And then we have Thunder Rosa allegedly hiding in the bathroom, which a bunch of reports said that didn't really happen, but it might have happened. She did disappear rather quickly after breaking Jamie Hayter's nose, and I wouldn't want to piss off Jamie Hayter. She works pretty snug, but we even talked about it on the show that it looked like Thunder Rosa was just kicking people's heads off and killing them and stuff. And apparently that's how the talent also felt about it. Way too stiff. There's working snug, and then there's being dangerous. Some talent feel like this, but Tyler, we have champions that are pissed, like current or recently current in terms of CM Punk. Thunder Rosa going on a medical hiatus, which is probably real. I'm not going to question somebody's injury, but it is, why not just relinquish the championship? Why be an interim champion? If that's the case, I feel like she might come back heel and lean into this "I'm a bad guy in the locker room" thing.
Mm-hmm. The sandbagging t-shirt.
Yeah, why do that stuff if you're being accused of it? Yeah. Apparently there's no beef between her and Marina. People made more out of that than there was, because they had a picture afterward posing together.
Exactly. But there appears to be beef between Britt and Rosa, which was one of the signature feuds in the women's division since AEW started.
And they've hated each other for a lot longer than this most recent match. They just always agree to work together like professionals. I can't stand you, but I'm going to do my job, which I think is kind of the way you have to be in this industry. Is you have to be willing to do business, and you have to be willing not to hurt somebody. Man, if Edge and Matt Hardy can go out there and do 2 matches, because Matt unfortunately got too injured in the first one. It was like a big squash, and it was real. Matt got hurt, so they ran it back. To do 2 matches, given all of that history, yeah, I think anybody can work together. But Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, arguably your two biggest stars in the company. In the women's division, outside of Jade, who should be considered a top star, maybe the top star in the women's division at the moment. Man, to have them beefing and to hear all this stuff where it's not one person complaining about Thunder Rosa. It's a ton of people complaining about Thunder Rosa, but also a ton of people giving her flowers about what a great leader she is in other promotions and how she's been really great working with people. So
Right.
we don't know, again, Tyler, we don't know what to think, what's actually true. All we know is that there's a lot of rumors coming out, and it's happening at the same time that WWE is finally getting their shit together collectively and creatively. I don't know what to make of this. It's got my head spinning.
Same. Again, this is another case where you're not alone. I think the two stories we're spotlighting here are Thunder Rosa. I completely agree with you. It's tough. I was very close to buying a Thunder Rosa action figure from Ringside Collectibles. Brad, I think I texted you about this. They have their Labor Day sale, and I think her figure is like $20 or $21 right now, which is probably even less, slightly less than you would pay at the store. So I was just on their webpage thinking, like, it coincided with these reports coming out, and you know, if she's maybe, if we are to believe the reports of her detractors, you know, I'd rather spend money on a figure of someone who doesn't have these accusations. But it's tough because you and I enjoy her work, and there are reports of wrestlers praising her and how she gave them time to sit down and talk about the business. She has her work with Mission Pro Wrestling, uplifting other women in the industry. So I don't know what to make of it. It's disappointing if some of what the detractors are saying are true. And then for Punk, similarly, Punk is someone who has resonated with me in a really unique way. I remember his debut on ECW TV, WWE's ECW,
right,
and just really connecting with him. You know, saying like, my only addiction is competition. I don't do drugs. I don't drink alcohol, but like, I want to compete. Like, for 13-year-old me, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I'm all about this guy. So if, again, him, not reportedly, we saw him call out Hangman Page. And if it's true that Hangman had no idea, and it was seemingly Punk going into business for himself because he felt like he had to retaliate from a previous Page promo, that, as Alf Ferguson told us in our chat, that seems like, pun intended, a Punk move.
Yeah.
For CM Punk to do that. I think you brought this up last week, Brad. The proper approach, you would think, as two grown men, would be to talk about it or to address him personally in the locker room or somewhere else, not in front of a crowd, not when we don't know what's coming. And then finally, Eddie Kingston, Sammy G, backstage. Kingston admitted he was wrong, and now that match appears like it's not going to happen on the card. So maybe we don't get Eddie on the card, one of your most over talents. It's a lot, and I don't know what to believe, because these are all people who I think are supremely talented and who I enjoy for different reasons. It was fascinating to read the reports, but I, like you, feel like my head is spinning.
Yeah, and the Sammy Eddie thing, for Eddie to be like, yeah, I'll work with Sammy because other people didn't want to, after the way that all of the stuff with the TNT title was booked, and having Sammy just have mad go away heat, and him apparently, according to reports, being hard to work with. It's so hard to know what to make of it. Yeah, man, I don't know. I heard Brian Gewirtz say, I think on Renee's pod, that they need a writer's room, not necessarily to write their promos for them, but to make sure people aren't overlapping and to make sure people are on the same page. I think that makes a lot of sense for AEW, and hopefully they do something like that. And Tony, if you're listening, I am open to sending in a resume. Tyler, this is a wild week. I have a feeling we're going to be busy later this week. We have not yet talked about plans for what we want to do for this huge ass weekend. But I'm sure we're going to after this is done, and we're going to finish here in a second. I got to know, what are you looking forward to this week?
Oh man, yeah. Wrestling aside, I am looking forward to the second week at work and at school for me. I think I told you last week that this class seems like not something to stress over. We're kind of easing into this class I'm taking, and that's not the case at all, man. It's work overload. I think I totally underestimated the different pacing of this class, and we're back to the archaic discussion boards. My previous class, we had this flip grid flip app we could use, which I actually enjoyed.
I remember.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed, like, just being able to discuss readings and hearing and seeing classmates, and now that's gone. Now we're back to the old reply to two people and formulate your written response, answer these 4 prompts
Oh,
coherently and with
flashbacks.
quotes from the so I must admit that I kind of turned on this class pretty soon, but the professor seems incredibly brilliant and will make the best of it. So yeah, looking forward to week 2 there. On the job, I have a few meetings. I have a high school visit this week. So
Nice.
yeah, just looking forward to great conversations and hopefully a healthy, joyous week. That's about it for me. How about yourself? I'm sure you have more exciting stuff going on than that.
No, about the same. So I'm looking forward to the 4-day work week with students leading into the 5th day of
Yes.
the week where we have professional development.
That's right. That's right.
We have ILT in the morning, so we're going to be doing something. I don't know what it is yet. And then in the afternoon, we'll be meeting with colleagues and we'll be able to plan some of our English. And I'm hoping if we go grade level and then some sort of specific planning, that I'll have time to work on my own classes because I'm on an island doing those things, like absolute island. They're like, do you want to go meet with health? I absolutely do not. What I want to do is work on psychology and mental and social health. Yeah, I have a lot going on there. But Tyler, I start tomorrow. My first class starts tomorrow. So I like you. I'm hoping that my Grand Canyon University time is not repeated once I start at Northern Arizona. My 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 graduate studies there for my master's, and then my doctorate work. All of it was the discussion questions, 2 a week. You have to respond at least 4 times. You have to post to each question. It has to be 500 words. Write this essay. It's 10,000 words or whatever it is. And that's sort of it. I got caught in a rut there and realized I was getting A's without really learning a lot. Stuff that I wanted to learn, but I was like, I felt totally directionless. So I didn't know if I was learning the right things. I was just learning stuff I was interested in, but I didn't know if that's what I was supposed to be doing. So I'm a little nervous because the first class is grant writing, which sounds absolutely skull crushingly boring. And I'm hoping that's not the case. Because ultimately the final project for the class is write a grant proposal, and I'm hoping that I can help get one for Jess. And
Yeah.
if not for Jess, for the school.
Shout out to Wonder and Wander.
If anybody is listening to this right now and would like to go to Wonder and Wander, I think it's wonderwanderkids.org or .com. I'm not sure which one, but you can look up Wonder Wander Kids and you'll find it. You can make a donation if you want to support her as she starts her journey into the nonprofit realm. So I've so much to look forward to, but like you, I have a feeling that at the end of this week, I'm going to be like Monday. I'm going to be so tired and just sweaty and dead from not this Monday, the following Monday, Labor Day.
Right.
I'm gonna be sleeping until probably Tuesday morning with 2 major pay-per-views, our podcast, the first week of school, catching up on grading and doing planning. It's gonna end my life early, I think, but whatever, it's gonna rule with all of the new adventures that I'm starting, and I'm excited for it.
Man, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for us, like you said, personally, professionally, and then wrestling wise. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember the last time I felt this excited about a wrestling weekend. Of course, you and I were looking forward to SummerSlam, but this is just the perfect. We get AEW and WWE coinciding and having 2 shows that you and I are really hopeful about. Of course, we're always geeked for AEW, but this is the first. Well, we had SummerSlam, right? But this is clearly Triple H has his fingerprints all over this particular pay-per-view. It's overseas, so we're going to get a different feel. And finally, I don't know that it's a foregone conclusion that Roman beats Drew in the main event. Odds makers are probably Roman is the favorite, but I don't think, unlike some of Roman's previous matches, it's a definitive. Yeah, he's walking in and walking out with both titles.
Drew's been getting punked for months, and or for a month, it feels like. Drew showing up, I'm going to beat you at Clash, then getting jumped constantly. He's winning matches, but then he's getting jumped. I think Drew has taken the belts, or at least one of them, or something. So
wow, okay,
it makes the most sense. But I have to look at the timing. and see if he's beating records. If Roman hasn't surpassed records yet, then I think they'll wait for that.
Yeah, he's
So
at
that
like
Roman can do
800
that.
days now.
Yeah, and I would like to see him do it, but like
Me too.
doing the 2-year celebration, which we know we're getting next week, even though it was taped this week, getting that 2-year celebration for Roman as champion, it feels a little too like a setup to drop the belts, a little
Yeah.
bit too much. So
Feels like there's some finality there.
yeah, and I'm okay with that. Drew as a champion will be a great champion. It'll be great to have him in front of crowds. I don't know how people will react if he takes the belts from Roman. I kind of feel like whoever does should be a heel because Roman is such a gray area guy now that I think that beats Roman. Roman is everybody says he's this monster heel. He's not. He's Roman. It's not comparable to anything right
Yeah.
now.
I could see a babyface run for Roman at some point. I don't know how that'll work with
Yeah.
his schedule and if we get a Rock versus Roman match at Mania in LA. But you can see, Brad, especially
Yeah.
with these backstage segments with Sammy, you can see
Yeah.
that people want to cheer Roman.
Well,
He's so cool.
And that's the thing. This is why it's weird. He's working heel. He's super over though, like super over good guy babyface. Jimmy and Jay are working heel, and they're just heels. So you have these two heels that are in the bloodline with you, which I think is great, but they're the bad guys. Roman's not a bad guy. He's just not.
He's just the guy. Yeah.
So if he's just the
He's
guy, that's
just
the
the
best way
guy.
to describe it. Not good, not bad, just the tribal chief.
Yep.
And whoever takes the belt for him, I think is going to get booed. So
Wow.
I don't. If a heel takes it, like Karrion Kross, it makes the most sense because then you could just strap nuclear heat to him, and then he could take that on his little run or long run. Depends on how you do that. Drew, I could see taking out Karrion Kross. Absolutely could see that. I could see Riddle doing it too. There's a whole bunch of avenues here we could explore, but I also think Karrion Kross could work both shows and do just fine working both shows. He's younger. He has less commitments. Roman's on a part-time contract now, and he's not showing up to Raw. Where Kross, he could show up to both. Drew would definitely show up to both. He works all the house shows. So, yeah, I feel like it makes a lot of sense business-wise. I think timing-wise, it would make sense. I just don't know if Drew gets booed out of the building for beating Roman. He won't in England, but he might when he gets back. England is the only place that Drew could take the belts, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which seems convenient. I have a feeling we are going to discuss this in much greater detail on the next episode of Gimmick Infringement. But this one was a blast, Brad.
Yes, and I do want to add one more thing to your
Please.
point. The looking forward to these pay-per-views. I think the major difference for me is that for all these other WWE pay-per-views or premium live events, we have looked at them as like, oh, let's see what happens. And then we leave going, wow, that was really good. They know how to do pay-per-views, right? Like there's most of the pay-per-views this year have been really good, but we've gone into them with the expectation that they'll be really not. And then they exceed our expectations. This is the first one in my memory that I expect to be really good. I expect it. I expect it will rule. I'm looking forward to it. So it's such a difference for me to go, hey, All Out's going to kick ass. So Clash at the Castle is also going to kick ass. We just have really, really good wrestling coming our way this weekend.
It's so true. And I know you and I don't follow the NXT product incredibly closely, but we also have Worlds Collide before All Out, NXT versus NXT UK, which I think is going to deliver some really awesome matches. So it's a great time to be a co-host of GI is my point, Brad. It's content city for us over the next week. I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Please support the show if you enjoy what we do. Brad is at Wind Duster on Twitter. I am at Tyler J. McDowell. We are at GIPod19. You know the usual: like, subscribe, comment, review. It helps us when people can find us easier on the algorithms. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great week. We will be in your inboxes soon, and we hope you'll join us for the next one. Gimmick Infringement is a part of 19 Media Group. You can listen to us on Good Pods, our premier partners, and Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube via the 19 Media Group channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.